British pop rock band Fine Young Cannibals were formed in Birmingham, England, by bassist David Steele, guitarist Andy Cox, and vocalist Roland Gift in 1984. Earlier that same year, David and Andy were looking for a singer to front a new band. Having split with two-tone ska band The Beat, or the English Beat in the United States and Canada, they were eager to create their own thing and have more creative control. More than 500 potential singers auditioned before they decided to seek out one individual in particular named Roland Gift, whose band had once supported The Beat. Roland had spent his teenage years in youth theater until the advent of punk made music his main passion. As punk gave way to the two-tone ska, which gave rise to groups like The Beat, he took up playing saxophone as well as singing in a local band called Acrylics. When David and Andy got in touch with Roland, he let them know that he didn't play sax anymore. He was strictly a singer now. He told the Associated Press, "I always wanted to be a singer, but when I got involved in music, singers weren't in vogue. So I took up the sax. It was a skill, plus it's a very photogenic instrument. I sounded horrible." Their band's name came from the 1960 drama film All the Fine Young Cannibals, starring Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood. Fun fact, while they liked the name, they hadn't seen the movie. The band's slow start, though, continued to drag on as IRS Records, with whom Andy and Roland still had a contract, balked at their new name and lineup. What ultimately jump-started things was a 1985 appearance on the London television program The Tube. Offers from record companies immediately started pouring in after that. They eventually signed with London Records. Fine Young Cannibals' eponymous debut album was released that same year. It spawned the hits Johnny Come Home, which went to number 8 on the UK singles chart, and a cover of Elvis Presley's Suspicious Minds, which also went to number 8 on the same chart. The two songs became hits internationally as well, charting in the top 40 in Europe, Canada, and Australia, although they failed to make a significant impact on the US charts. Naturally, Roland stood out as the voice and face of the band. Having good looks and a keen fashion sense didn't hurt either. The son of a black carpenter and white mother who ran secondhand clothes shops, he spent his early years in Sparkhill, Birmingham, one of the UK's first multicultural areas. He told the Daily Express, "I didn't actually grow up in what you'd call a musical household, but I remember there was always music playing. We had an old radiogram in the corner of the living room at our house in Birmingham, and I would put on stuff like the Beatles and Otis Redding. My dad was from the West Indies, so there were lots of calypso records too." Moving to Hull at the age of 11 was a shock, as there were only 2 other non-white kids in school, but Roland never felt unwelcome. He fell into the Yorkshire city's punk scene, where his black leather jacket, dark skin, and blonde hair earned him the nickname Guinness. His dramatic on-camera presence in Fine Young Cannibals music videos recommended him to several filmmakers, landing him a part in the 1987 British film Sammy and Rosie Get Laid. 2 years later, he appeared as a Jamaican gangster in the British historical drama film Scandal. In the gap between their first and second albums, the band appeared as the house band in a nightclub in the 1987 comedy film Tin Men, and contributed several songs to the film's soundtrack. Those same songs would also end up on their follow-up album. Ever Fallen in Love, a cover of the Buzzcocks song, gave the band another top 10 placement on the UK singles chart in 1987 as well. It was also included on the soundtrack to the 1986 comedy thriller film Something Wild. David and Andy also released the instrumental house single Tired of Getting Pushed Around as Two Men, a Drum Machine, and a Trumpet, which reached number 18 in the UK singles chart. 4 years after their debut album dropped, Fine Young Cannibals released their second album, titled The Raw and the Cooked. About the title, Andy told the Associated Press, "The name comes from a drink we order at our local pub. It's half Guinness and half port and whiskey." Half a dozen singles were released, including 2 standouts that would finally put the band on the American map. She Drives Me Crazy would become Fine Young Cannibals' biggest hit and signature song, coming in at number 5 on the UK singles chart and number 1 on the US Billboard Hot 100. It would also capture the top spot in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. Good Thing put up similar numbers, taking the number 7 position on the UK singles chart as well as number 1 on the Hot 100. The momentum both tracks created was enough to lift The Raw and the Cooked to number 1 on the Billboard Top 200 album charts, where it spent a remarkable 7 weeks, wedged between Madonna's Like a Prayer and Prince's Batman soundtrack. The following year, the band won 2 Brit Awards, Best British Group and Best British Album. And then it all came to a grinding halt. Despite the Raw and the Cook's success, Fine Young Cannibals never made another album and officially disbanded in 1992. Roland revealed the reason why he, specifically, stepped away to The Guardian in 1999. "I had to reevaluate my life. You become institutionalized in a group. We were victims of our success. We got to the stage that everybody was so hyped up that if we'd produced a record that sold half as many, it would have been deemed a failure. It's such a typical rock and roll story, and half the time we were aware of that, but then we'd get stupid again. It was a bit like you wake up from under an anesthetic, and then you see things clearly, but then you fall back into the fog." He also said that since none of them had ever experienced the level of success they'd achieved with their second album, they didn't know how to handle it. When asked again what happened by The Guardian in 2020, his answer went a little deeper. "Everyone got inflated after the success. There were squabbles about me being in films, and people were telling each of us stuff about the other members. Divide and rule, basically." He added that he deliberately slowed his career down because he wanted to be a present father for his sons. His own father spent 3 years in prison. "I didn't want to be here, there, and everywhere, but I didn't know how to manage that other than the way I did. With hindsight, I could have done things differently." The band briefly came back together in 1996 to record a new single called The Flame for their greatest hits compilation, The Finest, released that year. From there, the 3 men went their seemingly separate ways for good. Roland delivered his self-titled solo debut in 2002 to moderate fanfare. David would go on to co-produce a couple of tracks on English R&B vocalist Gabrielle's 1993 LP, Find a Way, as well as release a pair of solo albums in 2004's Fried and 2007's Things Change. Andy, meanwhile, formed the band Crybaby with Japanese singer Yukari Fuji and delivered 1 full-length volume in 2002. A deluxe 2-CD reissue of The Raw and the Cooked came out in 2013, featuring a bonus disc of B-sides and remixes and significantly better sound quality than the original CD pressing. In 2020, brand new 2-CD deluxe editions of both of the Fine Young Cannibals studio albums were issued. The expanded editions go well beyond the deluxe editions from 7 years earlier, with 29 bonus tracks for the first album, including B-sides, remixes, BBC sessions, and more, and 22 extra tracks for The Raw and the Cooked. The albums have been remastered from their original analog master tapes, and as well as the 2-CD expanded editions, both reissued on colored vinyl, with the debut on red and The Raw and the Cooked on white vinyl. On April 22, 2025, Roland announced the Fine Young Cannibals' 40th anniversary tour on his various social media platforms. While he calls it a tour, so far there are only 2 dates set for this year.
"Hi, my name's Roland Gift. I was a singer in the Fine Young Cannibals, and I'm here to let you know that it's 40 years since the Cannibals released their first album, self-titled Fine Young Cannibals. Now, I want to celebrate this, so I'm going to do 2 concerts this year, one in October the 2nd at the London Palladium, and in November the 12th, it'll be the Birmingham Symphony Hall. Tickets are going to be on sale this Friday from 10 a.m. from My Ticket. Why should you come? Well, I'd like you to celebrate it with me. I'd like you to, you know that you like to hear the songs She Drives Me Crazy, Good Thing, Suspicious Minds, and I love singing them. So that's one reason to come. Another is it could change your life. You never know. I mean, it has happened. And also, at the very least, it'll be a good night out. So see you either at the London Palladium on the 2nd of October or in Birmingham at the Birmingham Symphony Hall on the 12th of November.